You are about to discover a truth that most people spend their entire lives avoiding. If you cannot be happy alone, you will never be truly happy with anyone else. Right now, millions of people are waiting for a text to feel valued, waiting for someone to notice them to feel seen, waiting for external circumstances to align before they allow themselves to feel good. They have handed over the keys to their happiness to other people, to situations beyond their control, to a world that owes them nothing. But you are different. You are here because something inside you knows there is another way. A way that does not depend on luck, on other people's moods, or on perfect circumstances. A way that places the power exactly where it belongs, in your own hands. This audiobook is not about learning to tolerate loneliness. It is about discovering that solitude is not a void to be filled, but a foundation to be built upon. The journey ahead will challenge everything you have been taught about happiness. Society has conditioned you to believe that fulfillment comes from external sources, but every person who has ever found lasting peace will tell you the same secret. Happiness is an inside job. Throughout this audiobook, you will learn the specific principles that transform solitude from a burden into a superpower. Each principle has been tested in the real world and is backed by psychology, philosophy, and timeless wisdom. The path requires courage, but here is what you gain: freedom. Real, unshakable freedom. This is where your transformation begins. Are you ready? If you're ready to rise above the noise, like the video. It tells YouTube you're choosing awareness over autopilot. Subscribe now, and don't miss the next chapter in your evolution. And remember, the deepest transformation belongs to those who stay until the very end. Chapter 1. Choose yourself first and stop waiting for others. When you sit down in complete honesty and ask yourself what it truly means to be happy alone, you begin to see something both simple and revolutionary. Your happiness begins with you, not with someone else granting you permission, not with people around you finally deciding you are enough. It starts the moment you choose yourself first and stop waiting for others to validate your existence. This is the first and most essential principle of inner freedom, and until you grasp it fully, you will remain a prisoner of external circumstance. Consider how much of your life has been spent in a state of waiting for friends to include you before you feel worthy, waiting for family to notice your efforts before you feel valued, waiting for society to approve of your choices before you feel confident, waiting for a partner to complete you before you feel whole. In all this waiting, years slip away. Opportunities vanish. Growth stalls. And the saddest part is that the permission you are waiting for will never come in the form you expect, because the only permission that truly matters is the one you give yourself. Think about the countless times people hold themselves back because they fear being seen doing something alone. They avoid the gym because they do not want to look like a beginner in front of others. They skip learning a new skill because they fear judgment if they fail. They refuse to go to a restaurant alone because they worry someone will think they have no friends. But every one of these hesitations is nothing more than handing the remote control of your life to strangers who do not care about you and will forget you the moment you leave their sight. This is not caution. This is self-imprisonment. The fundamental truth you must accept is this: no one can live your life for you. No one can feel your joy or carry your burdens. That responsibility belongs entirely to you, and the moment you fully accept it, everything shifts. Choosing yourself means deciding that your time has inherent value, that your goals matter deeply, and that your peace is worth protecting fiercely. It does not mean becoming cold or shutting people out. It means you stop making them the gatekeepers of your happiness. You stop putting your dreams on hold because you are waiting for applause that may never come. You take the step forward, whether people cheer or criticize, because your life is too precious to be held hostage by hesitation. When you truly choose yourself, you create space for authentic growth. You begin noticing the small victories that most people overlook, but that form the bedrock of a meaningful life. The first morning you wake up early because you want to honor your goals, not because someone is watching. The moment you finish a book you have been postponing for months and feel the quiet satisfaction of completion. The workout you push through, even though no one will ever know you did it. These moments may seem insignificant in isolation, but together they construct a foundation of pride and inner strength that no external validation can provide. From a deeper perspective, this principle aligns with the universal law of personal sovereignty. In the energetic realm, every time you wait for external permission, you leak your power. You send a signal to the universe that you do not trust yourself, that you need others to confirm your worth. This creates a vibrational pattern of dependency that attracts more situations requiring validation. But when you choose yourself, you reclaim that energy. You become a closed circuit of self-generated power. You signal to the universe that you are ready to lead your own life, and the universe responds by opening pathways that were previously invisible. There is a profound peace that emerges when you stop chasing attention and start honoring your own standards. Waiting for others creates frustration because human beings are unpredictable. One day they support you. The next day, they are distracted by their own struggles. If your emotional state depends on their approval, you will ride an endless roller coaster of highs and lows. But when you decide to give yourself the approval you have been seeking externally, you step off that ride. You plant your feet on solid ground. You stand steady regardless of who comes or goes, and you no longer lose yourself in someone else's storm. Psychology confirms what ancient wisdom has always known. People who take full ownership of their choices experience greater strength and fulfillment. When you accept responsibility for your own life, you gain a sense of control, and control over your direction is the most direct path to confidence. The opposite is equally true. When you wait for others to decide for you, you surrender that control. You exist at the mercy of their schedules, their attention, their moods. Over time, this creates deep frustration, resentment, and chronic unhappiness. You deserve better. You deserve to be the author of your own story, not a supporting character in someone else's. Choosing yourself also builds resilience in ways that external validation never can. Think about the times you have faced rejection or been ignored. If your sense of worth depends entirely on others noticing you, those moments devastate you. They become evidence that you are not enough. But if your sense of worth is rooted in your own consistent action, rejection loses its power. You may feel momentary hurt, but it does not break you. You keep moving because your foundation is stronger than any single opinion. You cannot control who accepts you, but you can absolutely control whether you keep showing up for yourself. That is true power. Another critical element here is self-respect. Every time you wait for external permission, you whisper to your subconscious that you are not ready, not capable, not sufficient on your own. This internal message compounds over time, creating deep-seated doubt. But every time you act independently, even in small ways, you send a different signal. You tell yourself, I can handle this. I am capable. I am enough. This self-respect accumulates layer by layer until it becomes an unshakable core identity. Once you respect yourself at this level, you no longer chase validation from the outside world. You have become your own source. There is also tremendous freedom in this choice. Many people live trapped in patterns where they exist solely to please others. They dress, speak, and behave according to what they believe will earn approval. But this comes at an enormous cost. They sacrifice their authentic identity and their genuine dreams. Happiness becomes a distant concept because they are living someone else's version of life. When you choose yourself, you escape this trap. You start asking different questions. Not what will they think, but what do I truly want? Not will they accept me, but do I accept myself? These questions unlock the door to a life that is real, honest, and deeply fulfilling. So how do you actually practice this? Begin by identifying where you are waiting. Are you waiting for friends to invite you before you go somewhere you want to experience? Stop waiting and go. Are you waiting for encouragement before you take a meaningful risk? Stop waiting and encourage yourself. Are you waiting for perfect timing to start a new habit? Stop waiting and start now, even imperfectly. You will quickly discover that you never needed as much as you thought. You only needed the decision to act. Build simple routines that place you in the driver's seat of your own life. Wake at a time that serves your goals, not others' expectations. Make choices about nutrition and movement based on what energizes you, not what trends dictate. Invest time in skills that genuinely matter to you, even if no one around you understands. These choices may seem small, but they send a powerful message that reverberates through your entire being. My life is my responsibility, and I refuse to waste it waiting. It is also essential to understand that choosing yourself is not selfish. In fact, it is one of the most generous acts possible. When you build a strong foundation of self-generated happiness, you stop draining others with constant needs for validation. Instead, you bring confidence, stability, and genuine joy into every interaction. You have more to offer because you are not operating from emptiness. People are naturally drawn to those who possess self-respect and inner clarity. By choosing yourself, you do not just elevate your own life. You improve the quality of every relationship you touch. Chapter 2. Grow self-respect by keeping promises to yourself. When you think deeply about what creates a truly strong life, there is one foundation that towers above all others: self-respect. Without it, no achievement feels complete, no success feels secure, and no relationship feels stable. Self-respect is not something you can purchase, inherit, or receive as a gift. It emerges from one very simple but profoundly powerful habit: keeping the promises you make to yourself. This is where the architecture of your character is built, brick by brick, promise by promise, day after day. Too many people are excellent at keeping promises to others, but routinely break their own. They show up on time for work. They deliver what friends ask of them. They meet external obligations because they fear disappointing anyone else. Yet when it comes to their own goals, their own health, their own dreams, they make endless excuses. They tell themselves they will start tomorrow. They promise they will try again next week. They commit to consistency and then abandon it the moment discomfort arises. What they do not realize is that every broken promise to yourself slowly erodes the foundation of trust you have within. And when you cannot trust yourself, you cannot respect yourself. This internal fracture creates a life of quiet desperation and chronic dissatisfaction. Consider how powerful it feels when you actually follow through on something you said you would do. You commit to waking up early, and you do it. You promise yourself 3 workouts this week, and you complete them. You decide to save a specific amount of money, and you actually set it aside. These acts might not seem monumental in the moment, but they carry invisible weight. Every single time you keep a promise, you teach yourself that your word has value. You prove to yourself that you are reliable. You demonstrate that you can depend on you. This is where genuine respect is born, not from someone else's approval, but from your own unwavering consistency. There is a fundamental truth embedded here that most people miss. If you cannot trust yourself to keep small promises, you will never trust yourself with larger ones. People often wonder why they lack confidence. They assume confidence comes from talent, charisma, or external validation. But real confidence is built through repeated proof that you can depend on yourself. It is knowing, deep in your bones, that when you say you will do something, you follow through. That internal certainty gives you the courage to take on bigger challenges because you have accumulated evidence that you do not quit on yourself. This evidence becomes your psychological armor. The promises that matter most are not the ones spoken aloud to impress others. They are the quiet commitments you whisper to yourself when no one else is listening. The promise to take better care of your body. The promise to learn the skill you have been avoiding. The promise to stop wasting hours on meaningless distractions and instead invest in building a meaningful future. These private promises do not need an audience. They need discipline. They need commitment. And most importantly, they need follow-through. Most people break promises to themselves because they underestimate the cost. They think missing one workout does not matter. Skipping one day of reading is no big deal. Wasting another evening accomplishes nothing significant. But it does matter. Every time you break a promise, you send yourself a message. My words mean nothing. Over time, this creates a deep internal pattern of self-doubt, frustration, and guilt. You start feeling perpetually behind, never consistent, never fully proud of who you are. This feeling does not arise because you lack potential. It arises because you have trained yourself through repeated broken promises that you cannot be trusted. Breaking this destructive pattern is one of the most transformative changes you can make. The first step is to start small. Do not overwhelm yourself with massive commitments you know you cannot sustain. Begin with a promise so simple that failure is nearly impossible. Drink enough water each day. Read 10 pages before bed. Stretch for 5 minutes each morning. Wake up just 10 minutes earlier than usual. When you keep these small promises consistently, you train your mind to believe you are capable. You build momentum, and from that momentum, you can expand into bigger commitments. Another essential element is brutal honesty. Stop making promises you know you will not keep. Many people set impossible standards to impress themselves, then fail spectacularly and feel worse than before. This only reinforces the destructive cycle. Instead, set promises that are realistic, achievable, and genuinely meaningful to you. When you hit those consistently, you earn the right to raise the bar. Self-respect does not come from grandiose declarations that lead nowhere. It comes from doing exactly what you said you would do, no matter how simple that action may be. You also need accountability, but not the kind that depends on others watching. The real test of character is what you do when no one sees. This is why you must learn to hold yourself accountable internally. Write down your commitments. Track them daily. Check them off not to show anyone else, but to remind yourself that you are building reliability within. Over time, those check marks become a record of discipline. When you look back at weeks and months of kept promises, You see undeniable proof that you have built trust with yourself. That proof becomes fuel for your self-respect. There will inevitably be days when you slip. This is part of being human. But what separates those who grow from those who remain stuck is how quickly they return to their promises. A broken day does not have to become a broken week. A missed task does not mean total surrender. Self-respect grows when you learn to recover quickly. Instead of drowning in guilt or using one failure as an excuse to quit entirely, you recommit immediately. You tell yourself, I missed once, but I will not miss twice. This decision builds resilience, and resilience is at the very core of self-respect. From a deeper energetic perspective, every promise you keep raises your frequency. In the realm of consciousness, integrity creates coherence. When your words align with your actions, you generate a powerful field of congruence that affects everything in your life. The universe responds to this signal of trustworthiness. Opportunities appear. Synchronicities increase. Your path becomes clearer because you have demonstrated through consistent action that you are serious about your own growth. Conversely, when you constantly break promises, you create energetic fragmentation. You become scattered, doubtful, and the universe mirrors that back to you through circumstances that reinforce your lack of follow-through. There is also an emotional dimension that cannot be ignored. Every time you let yourself down, you do not just lose progress, you lose belief. And belief is fragile. It takes sustained effort to rebuild once damaged. This is why you must guard your self-belief fiercely by honoring your commitments. When you say you will do something and you actually do it, you feel a spark of genuine pride. That spark builds confidence, and confidence reshapes your entire approach to life. It influences how you carry yourself physically, how you interact with others, and how boldly you take on challenges. As you practice keeping promises consistently, you will notice a profound shift in your relationship with yourself. You stop engaging in constant self-criticism. You stop feeling perpetual guilt for wasted time. Instead, you feel lighter, more capable, more grounded. This transformation does not require outside recognition. It happens quietly inside you, but it is powerful enough to change everything. With self-respect firmly established, you no longer need constant validation from others. You no longer need to prove yourself endlessly. You already know your word carries weight. That knowledge brings a stability and peace that external approval can never provide. Psychology confirms what you intuitively understand. People who keep commitments to themselves have higher self-esteem, stronger resilience, and greater overall happiness. They are not perfect. They simply develop unshakable trust in their own process. That trust becomes their anchor in difficult times. When life presents challenges, they know they will not abandon themselves. That knowledge provides stability and deep inner peace that nothing external can shake. Chapter 3. Enjoy silence. Daily and let your thoughts settle. Most people live immersed in constant noise. The world never stops talking. Screens never stop flashing, and everyone perpetually demands your attention. It is extraordinarily easy to lose yourself in this endless rush of voices and distractions. But if you want true strength, clarity, and happiness, you must learn to enjoy silence daily and let your thoughts settle. This is not a luxury or an optional practice for those with extra time. This is a fundamental requirement for mental health, emotional balance, and spiritual awareness. Silence is not emptiness, and this is the first misconception you must shatter. Silence is space, And within that space, your mind finds rest, your emotions calm down, and your vital energy resets. It is in silence that you begin to hear yourself clearly, to distinguish your authentic voice from the countless external opinions that have colonized your thoughts. Without regular silence, your head remains perpetually crowded with expectations, judgments, and pressures that do not belong to you. When you allow yourself intentional moments of silence, you give your brain the opportunity to slow down, to process, to integrate all the information it has absorbed. Most of the stress people experience does not come from actual danger. It comes from chronic overstimulation. Too many sounds, too many messages, too many decisions competing for limited mental bandwidth. Your nervous system becomes locked in a state of low-grade tension because it never receives a break. Silence is that break. It is where your body physically relaxes, your heart rate decreases, your cortisol levels drop, and your mind shifts from reactive mode to reflective mode. This is not about complicated meditation techniques or esoteric practices. This is simply giving yourself permission to stop, to sit quietly, and to let the noise fade away. In that stillness, something remarkable happens. Your thoughts, which usually race chaotically from one concern to another, begin to organize themselves naturally. Problems that seemed overwhelming start to appear smaller and more manageable. Solutions that were hidden beneath layers of mental clutter suddenly become visible. Clarity emerges not through force or analysis, but through the simple act of allowing space. Think about the last time you sat in genuine quiet, without reaching for your phone, without background music, without any distraction. For many, that moment feels uncomfortable initially. Silence can feel strange because modern life has conditioned you to fear it. But discomfort is only the surface layer. If you remain present with it, you begin to notice peace rising underneath. Your breathing naturally slows, your shoulders drop. A sense of release washes through you. This is your mind settling, and it is one of the most powerful experiences you can give yourself daily. The psychology behind this is clear and well documented. When your environment is loud, your brain is forced into constant reaction mode. It gets pulled from one stimulus to another, leaving you scattered and fragmented. In silence, there is nothing demanding immediate reaction. Your brain switches into a more contemplative state, allowing you to actually process experiences instead of merely being bombarded by them. This is where genuine thinking occurs. This is where insight appears. This is where wisdom develops. People often complain they cannot figure out what they truly want or why they feel perpetually stuck. But the truth is, they have never given themselves sufficient quiet time to think deeply enough. Silence is not a luxury for those who have nothing to do. It is a requirement for those who want to live intentionally. In the constant noise of modern existence, silence becomes the rare space where you can hear your own soul speaking. There is also a profound emotional dimension to silence. When life is noisy, it becomes easy to run from uncomfortable feelings. You bury sadness beneath music. You drown anxiety in television. You cover loneliness with endless scrolling. But those emotions do not disappear just because you distract yourself from them. They accumulate in the background, creating a heavy emotional residue that colors everything you do. Silence forces you to face them directly, and when you do, sitting with your emotions without distraction, you realize they are not as unbearable as you feared. When you allow yourself to feel fully in silence, emotions begin to loosen their grip. You learn to understand them instead of being controlled by them. That understanding creates balance and inner strength that no amount of distraction can provide. To build this practice into your life effectively, start with manageable periods. Give yourself 10 minutes each day without noise, without talking, without screens. Sit somewhere comfortable. Breathe naturally. Let yourself simply be present. Do not force your thoughts to stop or try to empty your mind completely. They will slow down organically if you allow them the space. Over time, gradually increase the duration of your silence practice. You will notice that your focus sharpens, your mood stabilizes, and your stress levels decrease significantly. The benefits compound with consistency, creating a foundation of mental clarity that transforms how you navigate life. One overlooked benefit of daily silence is its impact on decision-making. In constant noise, decisions are rushed and reactive. You respond to whatever is loudest or most immediate without considering deeper implications. In silence, you create mental space to evaluate clearly. You can think about what truly matters versus what is merely urgent. You gain perspective that is impossible when surrounded by chaos. Many of the regrettable mistakes people make come from reacting too quickly to noise instead of pausing long enough to see the complete picture. Silence gives you that pause, and in that pause, wisdom grows. From an energetic and spiritual perspective, silence is how you attune to higher frequencies of consciousness. The constant noise of the external world keeps you locked in lower vibrational states: stress, reactivity, fear, comparison. When you enter silence regularly, you create space for your consciousness to rise. You access deeper layers of intuition, creativity, and inner knowing that are always present, but usually drowned out. Ancient contemplative traditions across all cultures understood this principle. Silence is the doorway to the sacred, to the realm where universal intelligence can communicate with individual awareness. When you practice silence daily, you are not just resting your mind. You are opening a channel to wisdom far beyond your ordinary thinking. Another profound shift you will notice is that you stop feeling the constant need for external stimulation. Many people are restless when alone because they have become dependent on entertainment to feel okay. But as you grow comfortable with silence, you discover you do not need to be constantly entertained to feel content. You start genuinely enjoying your own presence. This is one of the deepest forms of independence. You realize you are not bored. You were simply unaccustomed to being with yourself. The more you practice, the more you find unexpected joy in quiet moments. Silence also restores vital energy. When you are surrounded by noise all day, your mental battery drains rapidly. Even if you do not consciously notice it, your mind works overtime, processing every bit of sensory information. Daily silence is like charging that battery. Just as your body requires sleep to function, your mind requires silence to recharge. Without it, you live perpetually tired, distracted, and scattered. With it, you feel sharper, calmer, and more fully alive. Chapter 4. Create personal standards that make you proud inside. Every person operates according to a private set of rules they live by, whether they consciously recognize them or not. These rules guide decisions, shape behavior, and profoundly influence how you see yourself. Some people live with standards so low that they accept anything that comes their way, and in doing so, they exist in perpetual disappointment. Others create standards so impossibly high that they can never meet them, living in constant frustration and self-judgment. But the real path to happiness, especially when you seek to feel strong in your own presence, is to create personal standards that make you genuinely proud inside. Standards are not about what others expect of you. They are about what you expect of yourself. And when your daily actions align with those expectations, you build a life that feels deeply fulfilling. Most people struggle with happiness because they have never clearly defined their own standards. They live in reactive mode, responding to whatever the world throws at them. If someone treats them poorly, they accept it. If they waste their own time, they shrug it off. If they neglect their health, they pretend it does not matter. Over time, these small compromises accumulate into a life where self-respect is completely absent. But the moment you set clear personal standards and commit to living by them, you begin sending yourself a radically different message. My life matters, and I refuse to live below what I know I deserve. It is critical to understand that standards are not about perfection. They are about consistency. A standard might be never speaking to yourself in a degrading or hateful way. Another might be always finishing what you start, regardless of how small the task. Another could be treating your body with care through intentional movement and nourishing food. These standards do not exist to impress anyone else. They exist to give you pride when you look at yourself in the mirror. That internal pride is worth infinitely more than approval from others, because it is solid, reliable, and unshakable. Creating standards also protects you from drifting aimlessly through life. Without them, you can be swayed by every influence, every opinion, and every passing temptation that crosses your path. But with clear standards firmly established, you anchor yourself. When someone pressures you to do something that contradicts your values, your standards make the decision immediately clear. When life becomes chaotic and uncertain, your standards guide your actions through the turbulence. This creates stability in a world that is often unstable, and stability is one of the deepest sources of genuine happiness. There is an important distinction between goals and standards that you must understand. Goals are specific outcomes you want to achieve. Standards are the non-negotiable ways you choose to live. Goals can be missed, delayed, or changed as circumstances evolve. But standards are absolute. They are daily expectations you refuse to compromise on, regardless of mood, convenience, or external pressure. For example, you might set a goal to lose a certain amount of weight, but your standard is that you will exercise 4 times per week, no matter what happens. The goal may take time and face obstacles, but the standard keeps you moving forward consistently. That standard is what builds your character and keeps your self-respect alive and thriving. One of the most powerful aspects of standards is that they create identity. If your standard is honesty, you become the kind of person who does not lie, even when it is uncomfortable. If your standard is punctuality, you become the person who always respects time. If your standard is discipline, you become the person who can be counted on to follow through. Over time, these standards shape how you fundamentally see yourself. And when you see yourself as strong, reliable, and disciplined, you live with profound pride and confidence that radiates from within. People consistently underestimate how damaging it is to live below their own standards. Every time you allow yourself to slip without consequence, you weaken the trust you have in yourself. And when you cannot trust yourself, you feel fundamentally disconnected from who you want to be. This internal disconnection creates frustration, guilt, and often deep shame. On the other hand, every time you honor your standards, even in seemingly small ways, you strengthen that trust. You tell yourself through action, I am someone who can be counted on. That feeling is priceless because it feeds directly into your happiness and sense of purpose. So how do you actually create personal standards that make you proud? The first step is deep reflection. Ask yourself probing questions. What qualities do I genuinely respect in others? What behaviors make me feel proud when I practice them consistently? What actions leave me disappointed when I fail to uphold them? These questions help you identify the core values that matter most to you. Once you see them clearly, you can design standards around them. For example, if you value discipline, a standard might be never skipping a planned task without a legitimate reason. If you value respect, a standard might be never tolerating disrespectful treatment from anyone, including yourself. Clarity comes from asking yourself who you want to become, and then designing standards that align perfectly with that identity. The second step is absolute commitment. Once you have established your standards, they must become non-negotiable. You cannot bend them based on mood, convenience, or peer pressure. If you do, they are not standards. They are merely preferences. A true standard is something you live by regardless of circumstances. That is why you should not set too many at once. Begin with a few that truly matter at the deepest level. Then expand gradually as you master them. Quality is infinitely more important than quantity when it comes to personal standards. The third step is consistent reinforcement. You must remind yourself daily of your standards. Write them down where you can see them. Review them regularly. Measure yourself against them honestly. This is not about generating guilt. This is about maintaining accountability. When you track your behavior consciously, you stay aware of whether you are living up to what you expect from yourself. Over time, these standards transition from conscious effort into natural habit. They stop feeling like discipline and start feeling like identity. They become simply who you are. Creating personal standards also requires courage. When you raise your standards, you will inevitably lose people who do not align with them. If your standard is respect, you will not tolerate friends who constantly belittle you. If your standard is discipline, you may drift away from people who waste time carelessly. This can feel uncomfortable initially, but it is absolutely necessary. Holding firmly to your standards filters out destructive influences and attracts aligned ones. You become surrounded by people who share, or at minimum respect, your values. That environment strengthens your growth instead of sabotaging it. From an energetic perspective, standards create a powerful vibrational signature. When you live with clear standards, you emit a frequency of integrity and self-respect. The universe responds to this coherence by bringing you circumstances that match that frequency. You attract relationships that honor your boundaries. You encounter opportunities that align with your values. Conversely, when you live without standards, accepting whatever comes, you emit scattered energy. The universe mirrors that back through chaotic circumstances and relationships that drain you. Standards are not just psychological tools. They are energetic declarations of who you are and what you will accept in your reality. Chapter 5. Strengthen your mind by facing loneliness without fear. Loneliness is one of the most potent emotions a human being can experience. It has the power to unsettle you deeply, to make you question your worth, and to leave you feeling profoundly empty. But loneliness itself is not the enemy. The real challenge, the real thief of your peace, is the fear that surrounds it. People spend entire lifetimes running from loneliness because they interpret it as a sign of weakness or personal failure. They avoid quiet moments at all costs. They surround themselves with constant noise and activity, and they chase endless company, not because they genuinely want connection, but because they are terrified of being left alone with their own thoughts. Yet if you want to build a truly strong mind, you must stop fearing loneliness and learn to face it directly. When you do, you will discover that it holds the very strength you have been desperately searching for. The first truth to understand is that loneliness is not a punishment. It is a natural condition of being human. Everyone will face it at some point in their journey. You might feel lonely after a relationship ends, after moving to a new city, or when you realize that the people around you do not share your deeper values. The feeling itself is completely normal. What matters profoundly is how you respond to it. Most people try desperately to escape it, but escaping never works long-term. You can drown loneliness temporarily in distractions, but it always returns, often with greater intensity. Strength is built by staying present with the feeling instead of running, by sitting with it until it no longer frightens you. When you choose to sit with loneliness instead of fleeing from it, something fundamental shifts within you. At first, the silence feels unbearably heavy. Thoughts rush in like an incoming tide. You are not good enough. You are forgotten. You do not matter. Nobody cares. These are the voices that fear uses to trap you in avoidance patterns. But if you stay still and allow the thoughts to pass without attaching to them, you begin to notice something profound beneath the noise. You are still here. You are breathing. You are alive. You are inherently capable. You begin to realize that loneliness is not proof that you are broken or defective. It is simply a moment when you are not surrounded by others. That realization weakens the fear significantly and strengthens your mind immeasurably. Psychology consistently shows that people who can tolerate solitude develop far greater resilience than those who cannot. They do not panic when left alone. They do not depend on constant validation to feel stable. Instead, they use alone time productively to think clearly, to reset emotionally, and to grow intentionally. That resilience functions as psychological armor. It means that no matter who stays in your life or who leaves, you remain fundamentally steady. That steadiness is where authentic confidence is born. Without it, you will always cling to others for security, and that dependency keeps you perpetually fragile and emotionally unstable. One of the most effective practices is to gradually increase your comfort with being alone. Start with short periods where you intentionally choose solitude. Go for a walk without music or your phone. Sit in your room without turning on the television or computer. Have a meal alone without rushing through it or distracting yourself. These experiences systematically teach your nervous system that being alone does not equal danger. They break the conditioned association between solitude and threat. Over time, your brain begins to perceive aloneness as normal and even valuable, rather than something to fear and avoid. Loneliness also teaches you about yourself in ways that nothing else possibly can. When you are constantly surrounded by people, you easily lose sight of who you actually are beneath all the social conditioning. You unconsciously adopt other people's habits, opinions, and emotional states. Solitude strips all of that away. It forces you to ask fundamental questions. What do I actually want when no one is influencing me? What do I truly believe when I am not performing for others? What do I genuinely feel when no one is telling me what I should think? These questions may feel uncomfortable initially, but they form the absolute foundation of self-knowledge. And self-knowledge is the bedrock of true strength. Facing loneliness also builds crucial emotional control. The fear of being alone often drives people into toxic relationships, destructive habits, or constant empty distractions. They would rather accept pain than sit with themselves. But when you face the feeling directly and endure it consciously, you stop needing those desperate escapes. You no longer settle for less than you deserve just to avoid being alone. That decision liberates you completely. It allows you to raise your standards dramatically and to connect with others by conscious choice rather than desperate need. And when you connect without desperation, your relationships become infinitely healthier and more genuine. Another form of strength that emerges from facing loneliness is true independence. Many people tie their entire identity to other people. They only feel valuable when someone else acknowledges them. But this dependence makes them incredibly fragile, because the moment that person leaves, their sense of worth collapses entirely. When you learn to be genuinely okay alone, you break that chain completely. You prove to yourself beyond doubt that your worth does not depend on anyone else being present. You carry it within you as an unshakable truth, that independence is not coldness or emotional detachment. It is freedom. It allows you to engage with people out of authentic love rather than desperate fear. The mind also becomes remarkably sharper in solitude. In constant company, thoughts scatter in multiple directions. In loneliness, your attention turns naturally inward. You see your patterns, your strengths, and your weaknesses with far greater clarity. You realize precisely where you have been avoiding necessary growth. You notice self-destructive habits that do not serve you. This awareness is not always comfortable, but it is absolutely necessary. Strength is never built in comfort zones. It is forged when you face truth directly without running away. Loneliness provides the silence necessary for that truth to surface clearly. To face loneliness without fear, you must also fundamentally shift your perspective. Instead of telling yourself, "I am alone because no one wants me," begin telling yourself, "I am alone because I need this time to grow stronger." The words you use internally shape how you experience solitude dramatically. If you label it as rejection, it feels unbearably painful. If you label it as essential training, it feels purposeful and empowering. This shift transforms loneliness from a threat into an opportunity. And opportunities are precisely where strength is created and refined. From a deeper spiritual and energetic perspective, loneliness is often the soul's way of calling you inward. In the constant noise and distraction of social interaction, you lose connection with your deeper self, with the quiet voice of intuition and inner wisdom. Loneliness creates the space necessary for you to reconnect with that dimension of yourself. It is in solitude that you hear the whispers of your authentic purpose, that you access creative inspiration, that you touch the infinite intelligence that flows through all consciousness. Ancient mystics and sages have always known this truth. The greatest revelations come in silence and solitude, not in crowds. Chapter 6. Feel happy by finishing one meaningful task. Daily happiness is often viewed as something distant and elusive, something that will arrive only after major achievements, or once life finally becomes perfect. But happiness does not wait at the finish line of some far-off goal. Happiness can be deliberately created every single day when you learn to complete just one meaningful task that truly matters to you. The human mind is fundamentally wired to feel satisfaction when it finishes something important. That sense of progress, even measured in the smallest increments, builds pride, stability, and powerful momentum. Without it, days blur together indistinguishably, and you begin to feel like nothing you do actually matters. But the profound truth is that each day can hold genuine joy if you train yourself to focus on finishing one meaningful task daily. The critical word here is meaningful. This is not about mindlessly checking off endless minor chores or filling your hours with frantic busyness. Anyone can stay busy from morning to night and still feel completely empty at the end. True satisfaction emerges when you identify one task that aligns authentically with your values, your growth, or your future, and you complete it fully. That completion gives your day substance and weight. It transforms it from just another forgettable 24 hours into a day that genuinely mattered. When repeated consistently, this habit builds a life filled with real accomplishment and sustainable happiness, not frustration, regret, and emptiness. Why is this principle so extraordinarily powerful? Because the brain thrives on tangible progress. When you leave tasks perpetually unfinished, you create mental clutter that weighs heavily on your consciousness. Your mind continuously reminds you of what remains incomplete, and this generates persistent guilt and stress. On the other hand, when you finish something that matters, you send a clear message to yourself. You can rely on your own effort. That simple act triggers a chemical reward in the brain. Dopamine is released, and you experience a natural sense of pleasure and accomplishment. This is the same reward system that drives all human motivation. Instead of allowing it to be hijacked by distractions and instant gratification, you consciously direct it toward meaningful work that builds your future. The challenge most people face is that they try to accomplish too much simultaneously. They create impossibly long lists of tasks, and when they inevitably cannot complete them all, they feel like total failures. This cycle systematically destroys motivation over time. The way out of this trap is radical simplification. Choose one meaningful task each day. It could be writing several pages toward a project that matters to you. It could be exercising to honor your health. It could be having an honest conversation you have been avoiding. It could be learning something new that expands your capabilities. Whatever it is, it must genuinely matter to you personally. If you finish that single task, the day is already a success in the truest sense. Anything beyond it becomes a bonus rather than a requirement. Think carefully about how many people end their days feeling frustrated and depleted, mindlessly scrolling on their phones, asking themselves where all the time disappeared. That frustration often stems from never giving themselves a real chance to feel true accomplishment. They may have been busy with countless activities, but they did not finish anything that gave them genuine pride. If you build the discipline of finishing one meaningful task daily, you never end the day feeling empty. You carry with you the quiet confidence of knowing you made progress that actually mattered. That confidence forms the unshakable foundation of lasting happiness. This practice also teaches invaluable focus in an age of infinite distraction. In today's world, distraction is relentless and constant. Every notification, every piece of entertainment, every external demand pulls you in a different direction simultaneously. If you do not choose your one meaningful task with clear intention, the day will slip away in scattered fragments, leaving you with nothing substantial. But when you identify that task at the very start of the day, you give yourself a clear target. That target directs your energy precisely. Even if other things inevitably come up, you know what absolutely cannot be left undone. This focused approach dramatically reduces overwhelm and exponentially increases productivity. Completing one meaningful task daily also strengthens discipline in profound ways. Discipline is not built through occasional bursts of intense effort. It is built through unwavering consistency. When you train yourself to complete something important each day, no matter how small it may seem, you are constructing a mental habit of follow-through. That habit naturally expands into other areas of your life. You begin to keep more promises overall. You finish what you start more reliably. You trust your own word more deeply. This creates a self-reinforcing cycle of self-respect that grows exponentially stronger with each completed task. Another significant benefit is that this practice systematically breaks the pattern of procrastination. Many people procrastinate because the overwhelming weight of doing everything at once feels utterly impossible. By narrowing the focus to one single task, you reduce the psychological pressure dramatically. You make the challenge genuinely manageable. Instead of demanding that you conquer the entire world in one day, you ask yourself to move the needle forward in one meaningful way. When you succeed, you create momentum. That momentum carries you naturally into the next day, making it progressively easier to keep going. Over time, procrastination loses its debilitating power over you completely. There is also a profound psychological element of identity formation at work here. Every time you finish something that matters, you reinforce the deeply held belief that you are a person who takes meaningful action. Conversely, every time you delay or abandon important tasks, you reinforce the belief that you are fundamentally unreliable. Identity is shaped by repeated actions over time, not by intentions or wishes. This is precisely why completing one meaningful task daily is so transformative. It does not just give you external results. It fundamentally changes how you see yourself at the deepest level. And when you see yourself as genuinely capable and consistently reliable, your happiness naturally grows from within. From an energetic and spiritual perspective, completion creates a powerful sense of closure and flow. In the quantum field of infinite possibility, unfinished tasks create open energetic loops that drain your vital force. They remain active in your consciousness, consuming energy even when you are not consciously thinking about them. When you complete something meaningful, you close that loop. Energy that was tied up becomes available again. You experience a sense of lightness and relief. This principle applies whether you are aware of it or not. Completion is not just psychological satisfaction, it is an energetic liberation. Chapter 7. Stop comparing your life and trust your own path. One of the most destructive reasons people struggle to feel happy alone is because they spend far too much time measuring their life against someone else's. They obsessively look at what others have achieved, how far others have traveled, or how quickly others are moving, and they conclude that their own progress is insufficient. Comparison relentlessly steals peace because it shifts your focus away from your unique path and places it squarely on someone else's journey. The fundamental truth is this: there will always be someone ahead of you in some measure, and there will always be someone behind you. If your happiness depends on where you stand relative to others, you will never find genuine stability or lasting contentment. But if you can stop comparing and learn to trust your own path completely, you unlock extraordinary freedom, confidence, and authentic happiness. Comparison is rooted deeply in insecurity. When you feel uncertain about your own inherent worth, you instinctively look outward for evidence that you are doing well enough. The devastating problem is that the world constantly offers examples that make you doubt yourself profoundly. Someone younger appears more successful. Someone older seems infinitely wiser. Someone you know appears to have more friends, more money, more recognition, more of everything. The hidden danger here is that you rarely see the complete story. You are comparing your messy behind-the-scenes struggles to someone else's carefully curated highlights. That is fundamentally an unfair game, and it absolutely guarantees you will lose every single time. Trusting your own path means understanding at the deepest level that your timeline, your experiences, and your growth are utterly unique to you. No one else has lived your exact life, faced your specific challenges, or carries your particular gifts. Therefore, no one else can possibly be the standard you measure yourself against. When you finally stop comparing, you reclaim enormous energy that was being wasted. Think carefully about how much mental and emotional strength is drained by endlessly scrolling through other people's lives, feeling jealous, bitter, or questioning your own worth. That precious energy could be channeled into building your skills, improving your health, or taking concrete steps toward your actual goals. Instead of fueling growth, it gets completely drained by comparison. This is precisely why so many people feel perpetually stuck, despite working hard. They spend more time watching others than doing their own meaningful work. To move forward powerfully, you must shift that focus back entirely to your own path. Ask yourself daily with brutal honesty, am I improving compared to yesterday? Am I moving closer to the life I genuinely want? That is the only measurement that truly matters. Trusting your own path requires deep patience, and this is where many people fail. The world relentlessly teaches you to crave speed and instant results. Everyone wants success immediately, but authentic progress does not work that way. Some people discover success early in life, others much later. Some find their true passion in youth, others in middle age or beyond. None of these timelines are wrong or inferior. They are simply different expressions of the same journey. If you constantly compare, you will always feel hopelessly behind. If you trust your own path, you recognize that where you are today is precisely preparing you for what comes next. The experiences you are living right now, including and especially the difficult ones, are actively shaping you into the person capable of handling your future. Trust fundamentally means believing that your time will come if you keep moving forward consistently. It means understanding that nothing is wasted, that every experience holds value, even when you cannot see it immediately. It is also critically important to understand that comparison actively shifts your values away from what truly matters to you. When you obsessively look at what others are doing, you start wanting what they have, even if it holds no genuine meaning for you personally. You see someone traveling constantly, and suddenly your simple, grounded life feels insufficient. You see someone with an enormous house, and you start thinking your own meaningful goals are too small and insignificant. But these are dangerous illusions. The only way to feel genuinely fulfilled is to pursue what aligns authentically with your own core values. If family connection, inner peace, or creative expression matter most to you, then chasing wealth or public attention because someone else has it will never make you happy. Trusting your own path means listening carefully to your heart, not blindly chasing someone else's externally visible achievements. One of the most powerful practices to systematically break the comparison habit is cultivating genuine gratitude. Every single time you find yourself looking at someone else's life with envy or bitterness, immediately stop and turn your focus inward. Ask yourself with complete honesty, what do I have right now that genuinely matters? It could be your health, real opportunities, meaningful relationships, or simply the chance to grow and evolve. Gratitude does not mean ignoring your goals or pretending you do not want more. It means recognizing that your life already contains substantial value in this present moment. This recognition fundamentally shifts your perspective. Instead of living constantly in perceived lack, you begin living in genuine appreciation. From that grounded place, you move forward with far more energy, clarity, and positivity. Another essential way to stop comparing is to set your own standards for success explicitly. If you do not consciously define what success means for you personally, you will be constantly pulled into other people's definitions and external expectations. For one person, success might mean a high-paying, prestigious job. For another, it is freedom of time and schedule. For someone else, it is raising children with deep values. You must decide definitively what success means for you, and then measure yourself only against that personal definition. Without clear, self-defined standards, you will forever chase shadows and other people's dreams. With them firmly established, you build a life that feels deeply authentic and fulfilling. Trust also fundamentally requires genuine self-belief. When you compare obsessively, what you are really communicating to yourself is that you do not believe your path is valuable enough. But belief grows organically through consistent action. Each deliberate step you take toward your goals, each promise you keep to yourself, each challenge you face directly builds confidence that you are truly capable. Over time, this belief strengthens until comparison loses its devastating grip entirely. You no longer need proof from the outside world because you carry undeniable proof within yourself through your own accumulated actions. From a deeper consciousness perspective, every soul incarnates with a unique path and specific lessons to learn. Your journey is not random. It is precisely designed for your evolution. When you compare yourself to others, you are essentially rejecting the perfection of your own curriculum. You are saying that someone else's lessons are better or more valuable than yours. But this fundamentally misunderstands the nature of growth. Each person's challenges are calibrated exactly for their development. What appears easy for someone else might be irrelevant to their growth. What feels difficult for you is precisely what your soul needs to master. Trusting your path means honoring the divine intelligence behind your unique journey. Chapter 8. Practice saying no when something drains your peace. One of the most important and transformative skills you can ever develop for your happiness and inner strength is the ability to say no firmly when something threatens your peace. Too many people live in a state of constant exhaustion, not because they lack time or resources, but because they continuously give away their time, their energy, and their attention to things that actively drain them. They accept every request without question. They tolerate every demand placed upon them, and they allow people and situations to invade their mental and emotional space freely. They do this primarily out of fear. Fear of being disliked, fear of disappointing others, fear of missing out on something important. Yet in this process of endless accommodation, they sacrifice their own well-being completely. Learning to say no is not about rejecting people cruelly or living selfishly. It is about protecting the part of your life that gives you stability, clarity, and genuine joy. Without peace, nothing else feels right or sustainable. The fundamental truth is that peace is extraordinarily fragile. It can be destroyed by seemingly small things. A conversation that makes you feel worthless. A commitment you did not want to accept, but felt pressured into. An environment that constantly stresses your nervous system. Each time you say yes to something that actively harms your peace, you allow a piece of yourself to be taken away. It might not feel significant in the isolated moment, but over time, these small concessions accumulate devastatingly. You end up resentful, chronically tired, and profoundly unhappy, all because you lacked the courage to say one simple but powerful word: no. There is a deep psychological reason for this widespread pattern. Human beings are evolutionarily wired to seek belonging and acceptance. We instinctively fear rejection because in our ancestral past, survival literally depended on being part of a protective group. That primal fear still exists, embedded in your nervous system, and it drives you to say yes, even when every fiber of your being wants to say no. But survival today is not about pleasing everyone around you indiscriminately. Survival today is about building a strong, stable mind and protecting your vital energy. And you absolutely cannot build that if you are constantly handing over your power to everyone who asks for it. Every time you say no to something that drains you, you are simultaneously saying yes to something else that genuinely matters. You say yes to necessary rest, yes to your health, yes to your meaningful goals, yes to your long-term happiness. The problem is that many people only see the rejection side of no. They forget entirely that no is also a profound act of commitment to yourself. If you want to be genuinely proud of your life, you must make that commitment non-negotiable. You cannot keep sacrificing your peace for the sake of pleasing people who may not even truly value your effort or presence. Saying no also builds irreplaceable self-respect. Every time you allow yourself to be pushed into something you fundamentally do not want, you weaken the trust you have in yourself. You teach yourself through repeated action that your feelings do not matter, that your needs are secondary, that your voice is not worth using. On the other hand, when you stand firm and protect your boundaries consistently, you build profound confidence. You remind yourself that your needs are completely valid and your voice is absolutely worth using. Over time, this practice changes how you see yourself at the deepest level. You stop being the person who is easily controlled and manipulated, and you start becoming the person who lives with dignity, strength, and unshakable self-respect. It is also absolutely essential to understand that not everything deserves your yes. Some opportunities may appear attractive on the surface but come with hidden costs that will destroy you. Some people may ask for help, but their demands become endless and exploitative. Some activities may provide short-term excitement, but leave you completely drained and depleted afterward. By practicing discernment and saying no strategically, you filter your life intentionally. You allow in only what genuinely contributes to your growth, health, and peace. This filtering process is precisely what creates sustainable balance. Without it, your life becomes hopelessly cluttered with obligations that do not serve your highest good. One primary reason people struggle so intensely to say no is overwhelming guilt. They believe on some level that they owe everyone their time and energy. But ask yourself with brutal honesty, how often do those same people respect your time in return? How often do they truly consider your needs and limitations? Guilt is a psychological weapon your conditioned mind uses against you. But guilt fades rapidly when you realize that your peace is not optional or negotiable. It is absolutely essential. Without inner peace, you cannot be your best self for yourself or genuinely for others. Protecting your peace benefits not only you, but ultimately everyone around you, because you show up far more present, capable, and generous when you are not running on empty. Practical action is required to master this skill. Start small and build gradually. The next time you feel pressured into something you genuinely do not want to do, pause deliberately before answering. Give yourself even just a moment to breathe deeply and ask internally, will this add real value to my life, or will it drain me significantly? If it drains you, choose no clearly. Your voice might shake initially. Your body might feel intense discomfort. But the strength you gain from standing firm is worth every moment of temporary discomfort. Each time you do this successfully, the fear diminishes and your confidence expands exponentially. Another highly useful step is to prepare your responses in advance. Many people default to saying yes simply because they do not know how to refuse effectively in the moment. Create simple, clear phrases you can use when needed. I cannot commit to that right now. That does not work for me. Or simply, no, thank you. You do not need to justify endlessly or explain every detail of your reasoning. A clear, respectful no is entirely sufficient. Over time, you will realize that most people accept it far more easily than you ever imagined. And for those who do not accept it graciously, remember this critical truth. Anyone who refuses to respect your no does not genuinely respect you in the first place. Saying no also applies crucially to yourself, not just to external demands. Sometimes the things that drain your peace most devastatingly are not external at all. They are internal patterns. You must learn to say no to your own destructive habits, no to chronic procrastination, no to relentlessly negative self-talk, no to wasting precious hours on activities that give you nothing meaningful back. These silent yeses to destructive internal patterns can be just as damaging as saying yes to harmful external demands. Practicing no internally builds invaluable discipline. It teaches you to control your impulses effectively and direct your energy toward what actually serves your highest evolution. From an energetic and spiritual perspective, every yes and no you speak carries vibrational weight. When you say yes to what drains you, you lower your frequency. You create energetic leaks that deplete your life force. When you say no to protect your peace, you seal those leaks. You conserve vital energy that can then be directed toward creation, healing, and growth. Ancient wisdom traditions understood this principle deeply. Boundaries are not walls that separate you from love. They are sacred containers that protect your energy so you can offer your gifts from fullness rather than depletion. Chapter 9. Accept your past and give yourself real freedom. Every person carries a past filled with countless chapters. Some of those chapters bring pride, joy, and cherished memories, while others carry mistakes, regrets, pain, and experiences you wish had never happened. The problem begins when you allow the weight of what already occurred to control and dominate the life you are living right now, in this present moment. Many people remain trapped indefinitely in guilt, shame, bitterness, or anger, endlessly repeating old memories in their minds, as if replaying them obsessively will somehow change what happened. But the unchangeable truth is that the past cannot be rewritten or erased. What can absolutely be changed is the way you hold it, the meaning you assign to it, and the power you allow it to have over your present. If you want real freedom and genuine happiness in your life, you must accept your past fully and give yourself the unconditional permission to move forward unburdened. Acceptance does not mean approval, and this distinction is critically important. It does not mean you have to like what happened or pretend it did not hurt you deeply. Acceptance means you recognize with clear eyes that it already happened. It cannot be erased from the timeline of your existence, and it no longer deserves the power to rule your present moment or dictate your future. As long as you keep fighting your past, resisting it, denying it, or wishing it were different, you stay stuck in an unwinnable battle. You waste enormous energy fighting an enemy that no longer exists except in your memory. But when you finally accept it fully, you take control back completely. You tell yourself with authority, that chapter is closed permanently, and I will not keep living in it. This fundamental mindset shift allows you to redirect your precious energy to today and tomorrow, instead of being chained endlessly to yesterday. The first essential step toward acceptance is radical honesty. Many people avoid looking at their past directly and clearly. They bury painful experiences under layers of distraction, or they unconsciously rewrite the story in their minds to avoid taking responsibility for their part. But avoiding only prolongs the suffering indefinitely. You must be willing to face the truth head on, both the parts you controlled and the parts you did not. If you made mistakes, admit them to yourself with complete honesty. If others hurt you, acknowledge the pain without minimizing it. Acceptance begins with clarity and truth, because you cannot release what you steadfastly refuse to face. Once you achieve honest clarity about your past, you must learn to forgive yourself, and this is often one of the hardest things for most people. They keep punishing themselves mercilessly for mistakes long after the moment has passed into history. They replay endlessly the decision they wish they had made differently, the opportunity they wasted, or the harm they caused. But carrying that punishment forever does absolutely nothing except weaken your spirit and drain your life force. You cannot change who you were then, but you can absolutely choose who you are now and who you will become. Self-forgiveness is not an excuse or justification for past wrongs. It is a powerful declaration that you refuse to let one chapter define the entire book of your life. It is choosing freedom over perpetual imprisonment. Forgiveness also applies necessarily to others who have hurt you. Some people remain stuck for decades because they are holding on tightly to anger towards someone who wronged them. They wait for an apology that may never come. They tell themselves they cannot possibly move on until justice is served or until that person acknowledges what they did. But that mindset keeps you tied energetically to the very person you want to escape from. Forgiving does not mean forgetting what happened or foolishly allowing the same destructive behavior again. It means cutting the invisible rope that keeps you bound to the pain. You forgive primarily so you can live free, not so the other person can be excused or absolved. Forgiveness is a gift you give yourself, not them. Another essential part of acceptance is understanding and extracting the lessons your past can offer you. Every mistake, every failure, every disappointment, every painful experience carries valuable information if you are willing to look for it. If you ignore it or suppress it, you miss the profound opportunity to grow from it. But if you study it carefully with curiosity rather than judgment, you find wisdom that can powerfully guide your future. The question to ask yourself is, what did this experience teach me about myself, about others, about life, about what I value? Maybe it taught you the critical importance of discipline. Maybe it revealed the need for better choices in relationships. Maybe it showed you the value of resilience or the necessity of boundaries. Whatever the lesson, taking it seriously transforms your past from a heavy burden into a valuable resource for growth. You must also consciously stop identifying yourself with your worst moment or your deepest failure. Too many people internally say and believe, I am my failure. I am my pain. I am my regret. I am my trauma. That identity keeps them trapped in a prison of their own making. The liberating truth is that you are infinitely more than what happened to you. You are more than your mistakes. You are the sum of every step you have taken, including crucially the steps you are taking right now in this present moment. When you accept your past without identifying with it, you separate your core identity from it. You understand clearly that it shaped you and influenced you, but it does not define you or limit your future. That separation gives you profound freedom to create an entirely new story moving forward. It is also vitally important to recognize that the past cannot actually hurt you unless you allow it to. The events themselves are gone, dissolved into time. What remains is only the memory and the meaning you attach to that memory. If you label your past as proof that you are weak, unworthy, or fundamentally damaged, it will continue to harm you in the present. If you label it as a set of experiences that made you wiser, stronger, and more compassionate, it will strengthen you. The meaning is ultimately your choice. Acceptance means consciously choosing a meaning that allows you to move forward with strength instead of keeping you locked in shame, regret, or victimhood. A practical step toward acceptance is writing down the specific events from your past that still weigh heavily on you. Put them on paper so they no longer swirl endlessly in your mind, creating mental fog. Then, beside each one, write clearly what you learned from it and how you will live differently because of that lesson. This simple practice turns pain into instruction. It shifts your focus from the disempowering question, "Why did this happen to me?" to the empowering question, "How can this help me grow and become stronger?" That shift in perspective is what allows you to move forward with genuine strength and wisdom. Another powerful practice is to deliberately create new experiences that build fresh, positive memories. Many people remain stuck in the past because they do not create enough meaningful new moments to replace or balance it. If you made serious mistakes years ago, balance them today with actions that make you genuinely proud. If you were hurt deeply in past relationships, consciously build new ones that are healthier and more aligned. Each new positive experience adds a layer that softens the old painful ones. Over time, the past loses its overwhelming hold because your present becomes progressively richer, fuller, and more meaningful. Chapter 10. Build emotional independence through self-awareness. Emotional independence is one of the most powerful forms of freedom you can ever achieve. It is the ability to self-regulate your emotional state without constantly requiring external input, validation, or reassurance. Most people live their entire lives emotionally dependent on circumstances and other people to feel stable. When things go well externally, they feel good. When things go poorly, they collapse. This creates a life of constant emotional turbulence, where your inner state is forever at the mercy of forces beyond your control. But when you build emotional independence through deep self-awareness, you gain the extraordinary ability to maintain inner stability, regardless of what is happening around you. This is not about suppressing emotions or pretending everything is fine. It is about understanding your emotional patterns so deeply that you can witness them, manage them, and choose your responses consciously, rather than being swept away by reactive storms. Self-awareness is the foundation of emotional independence. It means developing the capacity to observe your own emotions, thoughts, and reactions without being completely consumed or controlled by them. Most people are so identified with their emotions that they believe they are their emotions. When anger arises, they become anger. When sadness surfaces, they become sadness. When anxiety appears, they become anxiety. But self-awareness creates a critical gap between the emotion and the observer of that emotion. You begin to notice, "I am experiencing anger right now, but I am not the anger itself. I am the awareness that can observe it." This distinction is profoundly liberating because it means emotions can move through you without defining you or controlling your behavior. Building this awareness requires consistent practice. Start by simply naming your emotions as they arise throughout the day. Instead of saying, "I am anxious," say, "I notice anxiety is present." Instead of, "I am angry," say, "Anger is arising in me right now." This simple linguistic shift creates psychological distance. It reminds you that emotions are temporary states passing through your consciousness, not permanent aspects of your identity. Over time, This practice weakens the grip emotions have over you. You stop being tossed around by every feeling that surfaces and start navigating them with calm awareness. Another essential practice is pausing before reacting. Between any stimulus and your response, there exists a gap, however brief. In that gap lies your freedom. Most people react instantly and automatically to emotional triggers, which is why they repeat the same destructive patterns endlessly. But when you cultivate self-awareness, you learn to expand that gap. When something triggers you, instead of immediately reacting, you pause. You breathe. You observe what is happening inside you. You notice the emotion, the physical sensation, the automatic thought pattern trying to take over. And then, from that place of awareness, you choose your response consciously rather than reacting unconsciously. This is the essence of emotional mastery. Emotional independence also requires understanding the difference between feelings and facts. Your emotions are real and valid, but they are not always accurate reflections of reality. You can feel like a complete failure while objectively making significant progress. You can feel unloved while surrounded by people who care deeply about you. You can feel hopeless while standing on the edge of a major breakthrough. When you lack self-awareness, you mistake feelings for facts and make decisions based on distorted perceptions. But when you develop awareness, you learn to acknowledge your feelings while also questioning them. You ask, is this feeling showing me truth, or is it showing me fear? Is this emotion guiding me, or is it misleading me? This discernment prevents you from making destructive decisions based on temporary emotional states. Self-awareness also helps you identify your emotional triggers and patterns. Everyone has specific situations, words, or behaviors that consistently trigger strong emotional reactions. Without awareness, you remain at the mercy of these triggers, reacting the same way every time, like a programmed machine. But with awareness, you begin to see the patterns clearly. You notice, every time someone criticizes me, I feel worthless. Every time I face uncertainty, I become anxious. Every time I am alone, I feel abandoned. Once you see these patterns consciously, you can start working with them. You can explore where they came from, what belief systems support them, and how to respond differently. This is how you break free from automatic emotional programming. From a neurological perspective, self-awareness literally changes your brain. When you practice observing your emotions, rather than being consumed by them, you strengthen the prefrontal cortex, the part of your brain responsible for rational thinking and emotional regulation. You weaken the automatic pathways in the amygdala that trigger fight-or-flight responses. Over time, this neuroplasticity means you become genuinely calmer, more balanced, and more resilient. You are not suppressing emotions or pretending they do not exist. You are training your brain to process them more effectively. Emotional independence also requires learning to meet your own emotional needs instead of constantly seeking others to meet them. Many people are emotionally dependent because they never learned how to comfort themselves, encourage themselves, or reassure themselves. When they feel sad, they need someone else to cheer them up. When they feel insecure, they need someone else to validate them. When they feel afraid, they need someone else to protect them. But this creates exhausting dependency. True independence means developing the capacity to provide for yourself what you used to desperately seek from others. When you feel sad, you can sit with that sadness compassionately rather than running from it. When you feel insecure, you can remind yourself of your worth rather than seeking constant external validation. When you feel afraid, you can reassure yourself that you are capable of handling whatever comes. This does not mean you never seek support from others. Healthy connection and mutual support are essential parts of human life. But there is a profound difference between choosing to share your emotions with someone versus desperately needing them to fix you. When you are emotionally independent, you connect with others from wholeness rather than neediness. You share your experience without demanding that they change it. This creates far healthier, more balanced relationships because you are not draining others with constant emotional dependency. Another aspect of emotional independence is accepting that you are responsible for your emotional state. This is a difficult truth that many resist. It feels easier to blame circumstances or other people for how you feel. But blame keeps you powerless. When you accept that you are responsible for managing your emotions, you reclaim your power completely. This does not mean other people's actions do not affect you. It means you recognize that between their action and your emotional response, there is a space where your interpretation, your beliefs, and your choices exist. By changing what happens in that space, you change your emotional experience. From a spiritual and energetic perspective, self-awareness is the beginning of awakening. Most people live their entire lives completely identified with their thoughts and emotions, never realizing there is a deeper aspect of consciousness witnessing it all. This witness consciousness, sometimes called the observer or higher self, is the part of you that remains calm and aware, even when emotions storm through your system. As you develop self-awareness, you begin to access this witness more consistently. You realize you are not your thoughts, not your emotions, not your circumstances. You are the infinite awareness in which all of these temporary experiences arise and dissolve. This realization brings profound peace and unshakable emotional independence. Chapter 11. Cultivate inner peace through daily rituals. Inner peace is not something that arrives randomly or appears spontaneously when your life becomes perfect. It is deliberately cultivated through intentional daily practices that anchor your energy, stabilize your mind, and create sacred space in the midst of chaos. Most people live reactively, allowing each day to unfold according to external demands and random circumstances. They wake up scattered, move through the day fragmented, and collapse at night exhausted without ever creating moments of genuine peace. But when you establish daily rituals that honor your well-being and ground your consciousness, you build a foundation of stability that nothing external can shake. Rituals are not just habits. They are conscious acts that signal to your mind, body, and spirit that you are taking control of your inner environment, regardless of what happens in the outer world. The power of daily rituals lies in their consistency and intentionality. A ritual is different from a routine because it carries meaning and presence. When you perform a ritual, you are fully present with the action rather than doing it mindlessly. You invest it with awareness and purpose. This transforms ordinary actions into extraordinary anchors for your consciousness. For example, drinking your morning coffee can be a mindless routine, or it can be a sacred ritual where you sit in silence, feel gratitude, and set your intention for the day. The action is the same, but the quality of presence transforms its impact completely. Morning rituals are particularly powerful because they set the energetic tone for your entire day. How you begin your morning determines the frequency you carry into everything that follows. Most people destroy their morning by immediately reaching for their phone, flooding their consciousness with news, messages, and other people's agendas before they have even connected with themselves. This creates a reactive state that continues throughout the day. Instead, create a morning ritual that centers you before engaging with the external world. This might include waking at a consistent time, spending a few minutes in silence or meditation, moving your body through stretching or exercise, journaling your thoughts, or simply sitting with a warm drink while watching the sunrise. Whatever your ritual includes, the key is that it belongs to you alone. It is time you gift yourself before giving your energy to anyone or anything else. Evening rituals are equally important because they help you release the day's accumulated stress and prepare your nervous system for restorative sleep. Without an intentional evening practice, your mind often remains activated, replaying conversations, worrying about tomorrow, or processing unfinished business. This prevents deep rest and keeps you in a state of low-grade anxiety even during sleep. An evening ritual creates closure. It signals to your entire system that the day is complete and it is now time to rest. This might include turning off screens an hour before bed, taking a warm bath, writing down what you are grateful for, reviewing what you learned today, or practicing gentle breathwork. The specific actions matter less than the consistency and presence you bring to them. Daily rituals also create psychological safety through predictability. In a world that feels increasingly chaotic and uncertain, rituals provide islands of stability. Your nervous system relaxes when it knows what to expect. When you perform the same grounding practices each day, your body and mind begin to associate those actions with safety and peace. Over time, simply beginning your ritual triggers a relaxation response. Your breathing automatically deepens. Your thoughts naturally slow. Your entire system shifts into a more peaceful state because it has been conditioned through repetition to recognize this time as sacred and safe. From a spiritual perspective, rituals create energetic containers. Energy follows attention and intention. When you designate specific times and actions as sacred, you concentrate spiritual energy in those moments. Ancient wisdom traditions across all cultures understood this principle deeply. Prayer, meditation, ceremonial practices, and daily offerings were never about appeasing external deities. They were about creating energetic alignment within the practitioner. When you perform a ritual with full presence and clear intention, you align your personal energy with universal energy. You become a coherent channel through which higher consciousness can flow. This is why rituals often bring insights, inspiration, and clarity that ordinary thinking cannot access. Rituals also help you honor the natural rhythms and cycles that modern life ignores. Your body and consciousness are deeply connected to natural cycles. The cycle of day and night, the cycle of seasons, the cycle of your own energy levels throughout the day. Industrial society disconnects you from these rhythms, demanding constant productivity at the same pace, regardless of natural variation. Daily rituals reconnect you. Morning rituals align you with the expansive, creative energy of sunrise. Evening rituals align you with the receptive, reflective energy of sunset. By honoring these natural transitions through ritual, you live in greater harmony with life itself, rather than fighting against it. Another profound benefit of daily rituals is that they become anchors during difficult times. When life becomes overwhelming, when unexpected challenges arise, when everything feels unstable, your rituals remain constant. They become the solid ground you can always return to. No matter what chaos swirls around you, you know that tomorrow morning you will perform your ritual. You know that tonight you will have your sacred time. This creates enormous psychological resilience because you always have something reliable, something that grounds you, something that reminds you who you are beneath the turbulence. Building effective rituals requires thoughtful design and committed practice. Start by identifying what you genuinely need for your well-being. Do you need more stillness, more movement, more creative expression, more connection with nature, more spiritual practice? Design your rituals around your authentic needs rather than copying what others do. Your morning ritual might include 10 minutes of meditation, 5 minutes of journaling, and a walk outside. Your evening ritual might include lighting a candle, reviewing your day, and reading something inspiring. The specifics matter far less than the presence and consistency you bring. It is also important to keep rituals simple, especially when beginning. Many people create elaborate rituals that require too much time or effort, and then abandon them when life gets busy. Start with something so simple that you can do it even on your most chaotic days. 5 minutes is better than nothing. Consistency builds power, not complexity. As your practice deepens and becomes non-negotiable, you can expand and refine your rituals naturally. Rituals also benefit enormously from incorporating multiple senses. The more senses you engage, the more deeply the ritual anchors in your consciousness. You might light incense or a candle to engage smell and sight. Play specific music to engage hearing. Drink a particular tea to engage taste. Use movement or touch to engage the body. When multiple senses are involved, the ritual becomes a full system experience that creates stronger neural pathways and deeper energetic imprints. From a neuroscience perspective, rituals work because they create powerful associative conditioning. Your brain is constantly forming associations between actions and states. When you consistently pair certain actions with peaceful states, your brain forms neural pathways connecting them. Eventually, simply performing the action automatically triggers the peaceful state. This is why athletes have pre-game rituals, why musicians have warm-up routines, and why spiritual practitioners have daily practices. They are training their nervous system to access specific states on demand through ritualized action. Daily rituals also cultivate presence, which is the opposite of the chronic distraction most people live in. When you perform a ritual with full attention, you practice being completely present with what you are doing. This trains your capacity for presence, which then extends into the rest of your life. You become more present in conversations, more present with your work, more present with your experiences. Presence is where life is actually lived. The past is memory. The future is imagination. Only the present moment is real, and rituals train you to inhabit it fully. You now hold the complete blueprint for transforming solitude from something feared into something powerful. Every principle in this audiobook points to one undeniable truth. Happiness is not found outside yourself, waiting to be discovered. It is created within you through deliberate choice and consistent action. You have learned to choose yourself first, to build self-respect through kept promises, to find peace in silence, to create standards that make you proud, to face loneliness without fear, to finish meaningful tasks daily, to stop comparing your path, to protect your peace by saying no, to accept your past and free yourself, to build emotional independence, to cultivate inner peace through ritual, to transform solitude into creativity, to master your internal dialogue, to develop unshakable confidence, and to design your own happiness through daily progress. The question now is simple. Will you apply what you know? These principles mean nothing without action. Start today. Choose one practice and commit to it fully. Build from there. Remember that happiness alone is not about isolation. It is about becoming so complete within yourself that when you do connect with others, you do so from wholeness rather than desperate need. You bring strength instead of weakness. You offer love instead of demanding it. Your life is too precious to waste waiting for external circumstances to grant you permission to feel good. You already have everything you need within you right now. The power has always been yours. Claim it, use it, and watch as your life transforms into something genuinely fulfilling.